Lauren here from Raw Consulting and the Raw Spirit Team Mentorship. Yes, it was once a community membership. It is still sort of like that. It's just pivoted slightly to now be also a mentorship, which I'm loving because I'm loving the one-on-one. I'm loving the group coaching. I'm loving all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, I wanted to jump on here today because I just had a really exciting opportunity happen. And I thought, well, who can I share this with? And then I thought about you. And I was like, you would want to know, right? So basically, I have been responding to some press opportunities. And I was just a guest on the TV ticker news program. And while I was on there, I was basically given an opportunity to talk about some of the things that I've been doing, how I have pivoted and run my business full-time since being made redundant through COVID last year and things like that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about backing your big idea. And what I would love to hear from you as well in the comments is whether or not you've ever been nervous to do something and whether you've gone for it anyway, or whether you've just said, you know what, no, I'm not going to do it. I just can't. I'm too nervous or something like that. So I thought I would share my experience with you today because I was a little bit nervous. I was a lot nervous. Let me say that. So basically, it was this news program, and what they were doing is they were doing what's called a live cross. So a live cross is basically when they cross to somebody in another location, or whether they cross to somebody in another part of the newsroom or whatever, to basically interject a news story or something like that. You know, when you're watching TV or a radio, listening to the radio or something, and they'll say, and now we're going to go live to Lauren Tuck, who's going to tell us all about how her business is going, blah, blah, blah. That's an example of a live cross. So basically what happened was I signed up and I said, hey, I'd like to be on the program. This is what I'd love to talk to you about, blah, blah, blah. They deemed it as being content that they wanted on their show, and they set that up with me. Now, when you're going live, there's a whole, even though I'm going live here ironically, but I guess I just feel comfortable because I'm in the driver's seat. When you're kind of being interviewed or being a guest on somebody else's program, they're in the driver's seat, right? Which is fine because that's obviously what happens. I guess it's just funny when I'm used to being in the driver's seat through the podcasts that I do or through these lives, that putting myself in the position of, I guess, being interviewed live, where it could go any which way, is it's nerve-wracking. So what I did is I prepared. All right. Now, this is how I prepared. So first of all, I knew roughly the questions that they were going to ask me around the themes, because when I pitched, I basically said, these are the things that I would be happy to talk about, right? So what I then did is I went through and I wrote down all my possible answers, my thoughts on it. I reflected on, which direction the question could go, and then I jotted down some notes. So one of the cool things is that being here live on the internet is that I can have my notes in front of me, but I can still talk directly one-to-one with the person and not really give the appearance that I'm reading. So what I do for that is I actually had, so if you kind of imagine that the experience was sort of like having a Zoom call, right, where I could sort of see myself, but I could see them as well. It wasn't on Zoom, it was on another program. But essentially that's what it was, right? So I really minimized myself because I didn't want to get distracted by my hair or by something else going off or the shadow on my arm or whatever, right? I just decided I wanted to narrow in and listen to the question and then answer to the question without any distractions. So, sorry, one sec, I'm going to fix this. Sorry about that. Okay. So I didn't want any, see what just happened? I just noticed I looked down for a minute, I saw myself, and then I saw that this was wrapped up. So I didn't want anything like that to happen. I just wanted to be really in the moment and focus. So I had my notes in front of me. And then what I did is I had a trackpad set up. This is my trackpad. And the trackpad is basically set up separate from the computer. So if I were to scroll Instagram, you can't really see this because I'm talking to you on my iPad. Whereas YouTube and Facebook, I'm talking to you on my laptop. So basically, you might not be able to tell, but if I put my hand forward to scroll up and down on the trackpad on my computer, that's going to be a little bit more distracting than if I just sort of subtly use my trackpad on the right-hand side, right? So that's what I opted to do. So I had my trackpad set up, and then that way I could have my notes and I could just kind of slowly, discreetly scroll down for, you know, maybe some statements that I wanted to make, or like some notes to myself about things to make sure that I included. Okay, so that was one thing that I did. I got my trackpad ready. The other thing that I did is I prepared. I got ready early. So sometimes when I do my Facebook Lives with you guys, I actually just go live right away. I don't always prep early. Like I don't sit here and hang out for 10, 15 minutes. I like do my content, write my notes, and then I go live and I'm live. But for that, I had to log in 10 minutes early. So that way they knew that I was prepared and ready to go when they were ready to throw to me. Then I also allowed myself time to sort of ground and be here. Because I think that in my experience, when I've been really nervous to do something, basically I'm nervous because I'm not ready, or I haven't taken the time to be in the space for a while. So what I also did is I set up my ring light. So my ring light is kind of over top of my laptop at the moment. So Instagram, the lighting is not as good necessarily on Facebook. You can just go to Facebook or YouTube so you can see the difference. But basically I set up the ring light, and then I went on Zoom before and I checked to see whether or not the positioning of the camera was good, whether this art looked okay. There's like a light switch over there, which normally I would be a little bit out of that way. I wouldn't have that in the frame. So I checked these sort of things out, right? Make sure that they were good. The cool thing though was like sometimes I was up here and I was like trying to write on my computer, write some notes. And then I could hear the producer in my ear saying, Lauren, you might want to move your camera up because part of your head's getting cut off. So that was cool that he was also paying attention to the layout in the background, which is an obvious thing if you're running a new show and you're a producer, you would do that. Okay, so after that, I was ready. I got my my light ready. I had my notes prepared. I had my trackpad on. I had my trackpad charging. I had my phone turned off so that I was able to, again, not have any distractions. And then what I did is and this is where I'm telling you some of my, this is woo-woo stuff now, okay? So if you're not into the whole woo-woo concept, you can shut off. Maybe you got some value out of what I said. But basically what I did is I had some crystals around me, and I also use a Bach flower remedy. So the Bach flower remedy that I use is across the room, so I'm not going to get it. But it's basically Australian Bach flower, and that's BACH, Australian Bach flower. So I use it for anxiety and for nervousness. So I was feeling anxious. Obviously, it's live TV. So what I did is I put some of the Bach flower remedy in my water, and I had my water cup, branded water cup also, even though I didn't drink when I was being interviewed. I drank previous to that. And that just sort of helped me like to calm down a little bit. Okay, the other thing that I did, and again, this is like woo-woo stuff, but you know, maybe you're into it, is I had some crystals around me to help me with grounding. So when you're going to be doing a live interview, you get nervous, right? You get nervous, you get anxiety a little bit, butterflies, that sort of concept. So what I did is I got some of the crystals that I love from my office and I brought them here. So one of them is hematite. So I'll show you Instagram, show you Facebook and YouTube. How could I forget? Okay, so hematite is basically, it absorbs negative energy and it also calms in times of stress and worry. And then it's also a protective stone. So I wanted my hematite basically to just help me chill out so that by the time I was doing my interview, I was maybe a little bit more grounded. Now, I didn't want to wear this as a necklace. I didn't want to wear it because it just, frankly, didn't match my outfit but I just had it beside me and I held on to it a little bit as well before they threw it at me. Okay, the other thing that I have around me is fluorite. So this is a fluorite crystal. And then Instagram, that's a fluorite crystal. And then I also have a fluorite necklace right here and a fluorite necklace. Okay, so fluorite is basically, it neutralizes energy and stress. So you can see there's a bit of a theme here. It's also really good for helping with concentration. So it also helps with self-confidence, and it also helps with decision-making. So very often, if I know that I have a busy day ahead of me, I'll wear a fluorite necklace around my house. I always have the pyramid fluorite on my desk. It just helps with clarity. It just helps with, like I said, concentration and focus. Okay. And then I have this selenite crystal, which is like one of my favorite crystals ever. I'll show you Facebook, YouTube, and then Instagram. It looks like that. It basically looks like the moon, doesn't it, as a palm stone. It's absolutely amazing. So basically, selenite is used for cleansing the area, cleansing your office or your home space. It dispels negative energy, and it enhances clarity and focus as well. So I had my crystals near me. I had my ring light on. I was prepared. And so that really started me off in a position of being able to handle that interview well. The other thing that I did is I was thinking to myself, well, how can I kind of stand out in this interview to be a little bit different? And I brought in my trusty Raw Consulting, Raw Spirit Team mentorship pom-poms. So what that did is it sort of set me apart in the interview, because I can tell you right now, the guy that was talking about COVID and youth before me did not have a pom-pom. So that kind of just, gave me a little bit of a point of difference. So in the interview as well, they asked me, well, how can people get in touch with you? And I said, Raw Consulting, like Raw cheerleader. Okay, so see how I kind of tied that in together. One thing too, when you're doing an interview, and keep this in mind, it's like you want to be sure that you know why you're being interviewed, that you're clear on your own kind of what you want out of it, okay? The person who's interviewing you is getting the story, they're getting something out of it as well. You want to make sure that you're giving them what they're hoping to get, but then you're also wanting to make sure that you get what you're hoping to get. So during my interview, for example, I wasn't asked some of the questions that I thought I was going to be asked, but I tried to kind of throw in some of my answers just because I knew that I really wanted to get those messages across, or I wanted to promote the different podcasts that I'm on, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and tell you about that really cool experience. It was interesting. I guess the main thing is that it's normal to be nervous when you want to try something new. It's totally normal. It's normal to be nervous when you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone and when you're not in control. You're not in the driver's seat, much like I wasn't, right? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do these things just because they're a little bit scary. And I think that sometimes we allow our fear voice in our mind to stop us from doing things. Like, for example, when I originally was starting the podcast, I thought, oh, I don't have all the right audio equipment. I don't, the room that I have at the moment is so echoey, blah, blah, blah. So what did I do? I decided I would pivot. I record the podcast in my bedroom because it's quieter. The sound absorbs better in there. I went back to using my iPhone headphones instead of the Yeti microphone that I had, because I could control the sound a little bit better in the area that I was in. So these are things that, as you try new things out, you will learn how to do them differently. You will maybe learn that they're not for you. You will maybe learn how to do them better. And the more that you do it, the more that you will grow as a person. And the more that you grow as a person, the more that you will evolve, and you will slowly transform more and more and more into the person that you want to become. So one of my biggest tips and tricks as well is that when I am, when I'm given the opportunity, I guess, to show up and to do a press thing or to do a workshop or whatever, I think about who I want to become and who I want to transform into. And if that woman is going to do those things, then I'm going to do those things right now, because the more that I do them now, I will inadvertently transform into that person. So again, love to hear your comments, thoughts, or anything like that. If you are into the woo-woo stuff, there's an amazing episode launching today on my spiritual podcast called The Afterlight. It is a rainbow chamber meditation. Spoiler alert. That'll be going live in a couple of hours. And also on the podcast, on the Raw podcast on Monday, I did an entire episode on mindset. It is really powerful. It is basically about getting clear on the messages you're telling yourself and then giving you strategies to wipe those negative thoughts out. And I'm not saying that I don't work at this every day. I do work at this every day. Practice makes progress. I think it was Marie Forleo who coined that. I love it. And it's true. So check out that episode. Also, just because you are listening to the live, and I appreciate that, I want to let you know about what's coming up on Monday's episode of the Raw Raw podcast. I am speaking with a manifestation money expert, and we discussed how to manifest $10,000. Sound pretty good? All right, thank you. Don't forget, if you want to do one-on-one mentorship with me, you can now apply. If you need help on time management, I'm now selling a course on my website, or you can sign up for a free masterclass on my website where you get basically, you understand how to reduce your work hours by half. It's freaking awesome and it's free. So check it out. Thank you so much for your time. Talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.